Welcome to today's podcast. My guest today is Anna VanAgtmael. She's a retreat host and travel designer who founded Wandering Roots to help people check in with themselves while checking out of work. Her approach goes beyond traditional travel agents by creating fully customized, authentic experiences rooted in meaningful connection, thoughtful planning, and local immersion. She guides individuals and groups to unforgettable destinations with clarity, ease, and a deep focus on what truly matters to them. Welcome to the podcast, Anna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So I think you started your career in planning retreats and you've kind of since moved to helping other people plan them. Could you tell me a little bit about the history of what your retreats were like when you were doing them yourself?
Sure. I started in 2018 just hosting my own, and I actually still do host my own. I just host less. I used to host six a year, and now I do more like two. And I quit my day job in October of 2019, only
Congratulations.
to, thank you, only to cancel all of my retreats in 2020. And I had been asked several times by other local entrepreneurs if I would plan their retreat. And I initially said no, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still figuring it out. And so when I was given the gift of time in the form of COVID, I decided to put together services and a course. And so that sort of, I wouldn't say, yeah, it sort of nudged me in the planning direction. And that's actually how I make more of my money now, as I plan other people's retreats for them.
Got it. And when you were doing your own retreats, tell us about them and what they were like and kind of
Right.
what was your unique thing.
So I initially, I started Wandering Roots because I had been working in biotech industry for 13 years, and I honestly, I'm very grateful for it, and it taught me a lot, and it gave me very valuable life experience and business experience. But I actually was never jazzed about it. I had never even thought as a young adult what I wanted. I just was a very practical human being, and I just thought being in healthcare and research would be stable, and I would have a job for the rest of my life, and I would just climb the ladder. And I did all of that, and I was just wildly bored by it. And so I thought if I was experiencing the same thing, other people were too. Maybe they needed a little bit of space and time to figure out what they wanted out of life, because we only get one shot at it. And so I decided we would go to beautiful places, we would connect with each other, and we would explore nature and other cultures. And I wanted it to feel all inclusive so that they literally could just show up and participate in whatever parts of the itinerary they wanted to. And I wanted them to tap into themselves in real time. Like, is this something I actually want to do? Would I benefit more if I sat out from this excursion and took a nap or something like that? So that was pretty much it. I wanted to be an approachable adventure brand. I think that sometimes wellness can feel a little bit intimidating. And
Mm,
I think it's accessible for everybody, and it can look wildly different from person to person, and even different from for me day to day. But I think that there's room for all of it. So
totally. Yeah, I feel like wellness is a bit of a catch-all that is lost
yeah,
its way a little bit, and it means different things for different people, and it definitely turns off some people, especially maybe men.
yeah, totally.
So, how did you initially get business when you started your retreat uh, your
Yeah,
retreats?
I taught yoga locally, and I had two co-hosts from the very beginning. We've hosted 25 times together now, a chef and a photographer. And my photographer, I guess, coworker turned best friend, had a fairly sizable brand, and we got quite a few clients from them, from her and her Facebook group. But it developing an audience from scratch, I didn't have a social media presence at all, even much personally. It took a minute. I hosted locally. I'm in Michigan, and there aren't that many offerings in the Midwest, so that gave me a little bit of a leg up SEO wise. And then I had three sort of, I don't even know what you would call them, like host agencies for retreats. So it's sort of like the Airbnb for retreats. It just hosts a multitude. They take a commission, obviously, but I got a few clients that way, and I don't know, a hodgepodge of things. I wish I would have kept better track on what worked and what didn't, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I've observed is a lot of retreat planners need that audience, and if they don't have it, it's
Yeah,
really hard.
it's tough.
And it requires both sides of the brain, the marketing brain and the creative brain. While they sometimes overlap, it's certainly one's more operational, the other one's more execution and a little more masculine energy, feminine energy. So you've since decided to help other people plan retreats. What does that look like exactly?
So most people get overwhelmed by the logistics, or they're not making any money, which I would just like to say for the record, no one is hosting a retreat for the money. It's not their driving why, but it is the difference between operating a business and versus an expensive hobby. So a lot of people have approached me and have done one or two and haven't made any money and can't continue to do it, but do have enough clients. And then I have some people that are very passionate about their content, but they don't want to put all of the pieces together. And I actually like the behind the scenes and the logistics and the budgets the best. That's my favorite part. So usually they come up with an itinerary. I usually give them feedback and then build it from scratch. And what I do is find three venues for them, build a spreadsheet based on each venue and a ticket price, and then they pick one of the three options. And that like would include their co-host and any expense that you could, travel or meals or anything like that. So
So it sounds like a full service soup to nuts,
yeah,
and starting with procurement all the way to logistics as well and activities. So you're basically a travel agent or destination management company for retreat organizers. Is that fair to say, or is that belittling
totally.
your
Yeah.
experience?
Overnight event planner. Sometimes I'm on site with them. That's what I say. It's like a travel agency and a event coordinator had a baby.
And how's that going for you?
It's honestly, I love it. I didn't, it's something that sort of fell into my lap. It wasn't something I set out to do initially. I always thought I would only just host my own, but people are wildly passionate about the content they're sharing. And so to be a part of figuring out how to make that happen for them, and share it is incredible. And it also feels like I'm making a little bit more of a difference more exponentially than just hosting my own, like 10 groups here or there at a time. If I help 10 hosts a year, I'm helping 100 people.
Hmm.
So yeah, I also, one of my biggest values is freedom and flexibility. So I can do this from anywhere in the world and I travel quite frequently. So it just gives me a little more agency over my schedule. So.
And how do you discover the three venues you may want to choose and offer in terms of sourcing and procurement of those spaces?
Yeah, so technically I am a travel agent and I have different channels that I work with a local agency. So I have some outlets and resources that way. Sometimes I do get a lot of Googling, honestly. I look more for private hosted or private managed companies. I have a few directories of retreat centers and things like that, but it's mostly about making connections. If you can't physically go there, you can. There's still this gut feeling if they're the right choice or not, but
Yeah,
based
you
on
got to
how
do
they
the site
respond to your
visit.
emails, and so.
Well, I'll have to bring you out to Boise, Idaho to
I
see
did look at your place.
assemble.
It looks beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, how how have you, you got your own shtick, and your shtick is like helping people check in with themselves and kind of going through some changes and making sure they're doing the right thing, or maybe discover what they want to do next. But how do you contain that desire to help people by letting people do their own programs? Because there
Yeah.
is there tension there.
You mean for my clients or for
No, for
other?
your clients, because you have your own thing and you're like super passionate about your retreats. How do you not let that bleed into kind of telling people what they should do?
So if I'm helping anybody plan their own retreat, I never get involved in the content. That is their thing. There are thousands of retreats out there, and honestly, the reason people come is because of the host. And then there's a little bit of imposter syndrome that I dealt with in the beginning because I'm like, oh, I'll just jam pack my itinerary and provide value, and that's what they'll come for. But they want to spend time with you. And so honestly, I mentor them about scaling back because most people put too much activities and too many things into their itinerary, and then just reassure them that they can do this and that people are coming for them and the thing that they've experienced that they want to share. It's no different than any other designer, like an interior designer. Somebody else is living in that house. This is somebody else's retreat. I'm just here to complement whatever they want to share. So it's not my it's not my retreat.
But if you had to provide feedback for those people planning retreats on the content, since you said you may do that, what are some of the things that you look for in terms of pitfalls, or what are some of the things that you do recommend people do regardless of the topic?
Sure. So I always recommend 3 to 4 hours of free time a day, downtime.
Mm.
People, it's a marathon, not a sprint, especially when you get into a week long or a 7 day. I'm working with a gal that's hosting a thermal bathing in Iceland like right now. And I told her that I thought her clients were going to be in the car too much. I put everything on Google Maps and sent it back. And if you want to go to all of those places, go by yourself. To rent a car and like whatever, but try to pick things that are within 45 minutes to an hour one way maximum. I also don't do that every single day. Try to get it closer to 30 minutes. People are going to be tired. And if they're traveling internationally, they will crash by the second day if you don't have enough time for them to either go to bed early or take a nap.
So 3 to 4 hours of downtime a day. What else?
Not too much time in the car. Leave space for your content. So if you want to do a lot of excursions, but you also want to do workshops, don't do both in the same day. Just as an example. I always like to include meals. Not everybody does, but then you have to host somewhere where they have access to food. If you have drivers and they're only there for excursions, you have to figure out the food in a different capacity.
Right, right. And what are some trends you're seeing in terms of retreat planning right now?
So I'm actually seeing less excursion based and more content based.
Ah,
More, yeah. I don't know why. Um, Maybe just more of a deeper, more intentional experience. I also think that to sort of separate yourself from just a group travel experience and more into a retreat, that would separate you. Um, Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I'm seeing. I've had a couple women that haven't left the property once in a 5 day, 5 to 7 day span.
oh
They're
God,
just using
that
the
would drive me
venue.
crazy.
Huh?
That would drive me crazy.
So, I mean, like I said, there's thousands of retreats. You wouldn't pick that one. But yeah, it's not how I normally host, so just I've been a little bit surprised by it, but
So, what advice do you have, if at all, on the integration piece after retreat? Do you even play in that world, or is your work done once the last person checks out?
right. I actually do some integration. Um, it's sort of hard to re-enter your world where you wear a lot of hats and responsibilities when everyone's been taking care of your every need for 7 days. So as far as my retreats, we do journal prompts every morning, and we discuss them as a group at dinner. And so I'm sort of building up to those questions of reintegration of like, what was your favorite part of today? Is there some way you can integrate that into your home life? Can you, instead of being sad that it's over, be grateful that it happened? And what is your biggest takeaway? And just more intention around how you did spend your time and what you can take with you. It doesn't mean everything has to end when you leave the property. So that's what I do. We have a WhatsApp to collect everybody at the airport and gather everybody before the retreat, and we keep it open and people keep in touch. And so there's that. But yeah,
Do you recommend that to other retreat
I
leaders you work
do.
with?
I think that it adds a little like I mean, your guests don't own you when you leave, but I do think it's a nice sort of addition to the experience and sort of a softer landing as far as a reentry.
Have you ever said no to a retreat prospect, and why?
So I've never turned down a client for my
Okay.
own, a guest.
No, no,
I
no.
have just helped
For your
planning. Yes,
yeah.
I have.
Why? Why have you done that?
I
And
turned
what's
down
their
an
name? No,
exec.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it was a large company, and I like to work more with entrepreneurs. I'm not interested in doing executive retreats that are hundreds of people. I like,
Right.
and I did have a woman that wanted me to facilitate it, and I just didn't think that the budget made sense. I thought that she didn't need me, and she would make more money the other way. So I planned it, but I didn't facilitate it. But other than that, yeah. I don't want to work with anybody that I don't want to work with because it's not going to be good for them either. It should be
Yeah.
fun. So,
Yeah. Let's talk pricing. What kind of pricing trends
perfect.
are you seeing in retreats? And kind of, I know it's all over the place, but give us some
Yeah.
sense of where that lands, and what do other retreat leaders should do when they think about pricing?
Always charge more than you think. I see so many people underprice things. There's a lot of there's a lot of very low pricing in my opinion because you can go to Central South America and go to a retreat center and these people are running the same thing every single week. The
Right.
staff lives on site, the whatever. That is fine. There's nothing wrong with that offer or that price point, but that is not how I host and that's not how any of my planning clients host either. They're flying themselves and their co-host somewhere and there's just not only a whole lot more money to pull it off, but this individual also has to make a living. So it's not a large resort that just pays staff, mid-level wages. So I personally like to think energetically of if I'm making this offer, what would I pay for it? And then I write it down and then I go to my spreadsheet and I build the whole thing. And if the number it costs me to do it with myself getting paid or my client getting paid, and that number I wrote down before I started the process are wildly different, I don't do it. It's not aligned. You can't sell something that you think is too expensive. If it's pretty close and I can tweak some things, then yeah. And honestly, I'm almost always very close. So
So what's a realistic number somebody should think about when they're charging for a retreat per person, 3 days?
3 days, I'd start at 3,500 for a shared room and
Oh, okay.
5,000
Look
for
at
a
that. All
private.
right. Yeah, 3,500 including everything.
Yeah, minimum. It depends again where you stay, but
Sure.
and who all is involved.
Sure.
I host internationally 7 days and prices start at 6,600 and go up to 8,400.
What about number of people in a retreat? What are you seeing there?
So the most I have planned for any client is 25, but I'm usually in the 10 to 15 range. And when I host myself, I never host more than 12 individuals. I have three hosts, myself included, and I don't like going above a ratio of 3 or 4 guests to host to one, 3 to 4 to 1. Just because I like to be able to interact with everybody, and I don't feel that I get enough time to do that when the group's too large. And I also think that it starts to feel loud at dinner or like a college spring break, and that's not the
Yeah.
vibe I'm after.
I always like to think about the table, how many people can fit around the table,
Yep.
and how many conversations can take on at the same place. And to me, a max table should be six, and then or that's how I think about it. And
That's a
like as long as
good way
there's
to do it. Yeah.
multiple conversations that can take place without either one conversation. Once you go over six, you need to have multiple conversations. And I think to me, well, I'm biased because retreat facility has 11 rooms, but to me, it's 10.
That's fair.
Um,
It's a limiting factor for you. That's good.
so let's wrap up and talk about how do you charge? How, I mean, you obviously add to the cost of the retreat. So how do you
Yeah.
charge and, what your maybe cost prohibitive for people that don't have that kind of budget or they don't think they can make that kind of money, but how do you charge?
So for my planning clients, because I
Yep.
already told you okay, I charge $5,000 to plan the event. And if I'm on site, it depends on how long it is and where it is and what my expenses would be because I don't want any overhead expenses to not be covered. But I charge 15 grand starting for 4 days,
Okay.
to be on site.
Yeah, I value.
Yeah, I've been doing it long enough. I didn't start there, and I can net more when I host my own, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what works for me.
So as we close out this really, really informative session, do you have any other advice for retreat planners, retreat hosts, people who are trying to start retreats, people who are thinking about maybe starting their own agency like you? What advice do you have for people in the space?
I would say to keep talking about yourself, otherwise no one will know who you are, especially when you're just starting out. I think sometimes you get a little bit like squeegee and you're not exactly sure what you're doing. Just keep talking about it, and that'll help one spread the word, but it'll also help you feel more confident and maybe flesh out some ideas while you're at it.
So, and that also helps build that audience and platform we talked about.
Yeah, word of
Awesome.
mouth is pretty invaluable still.
So where can people find you, Anna?
Yourwanderingroots.com. If you want to talk about retreat planning, moneymakingretreats.com.
Hell yeah.
Chat.
Well, thank you so much for this chat. I really enjoyed it and I learned a ton myself. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.